Okay,
Nice.
great. The meeting is now being recorded and will be uploaded to WestfordCAT tomorrow. For anyone watching at home, this is not a regularly scheduled meeting, so the agenda is very light. And before we get to our business item, we'll check if there is any public comment. So if you are on Zoom, you can raise your hand and you'll be unmuted. Our public comment period is for speakers to share their thoughts for 2 minutes each, but we try to avoid a dialogue or back and forth. Please introduce yourself and give your address before speaking. Not seeing any hands. Excuse me. Okay, great. With that out of the way, we will switch to our business item, which is the appointment of Director of Special Education and Social Emotional Learning. And if you want to start by talking about the process, Dr. Chu, thanks.
Thank you very much. So yes, we had 15 candidates for this position. We invited 5 candidates to interview. 1 accepted a position before the interview process, and so we interviewed 4 candidates. There was a panel of the search advisory committee consisted of parents from each level, staff from each level, and there was central office administration, school committee membership, and the chair of the CPAC board or the CPAC was a part of the committee. It took over 2 days, and then they had recommended 2 finalists. Those finalists met with our central office leadership cabinet, which is me at the time. It was Dr. Cleary, Courtney Moran, Magali Rodriguez Ronan, and Jenny Lynn. And after those interviews, we also had reached out and had checked some references. And after all of that, I'm very happy to recommend to you Gerard Coughlin to be the next Director of Special Education and Social Emotional Learning.
Great. Thank you for that introduction. And we did have a school committee rep on the screening committee.
Catherine was with us. Yep.
Yeah. Did you want to add anything, Catherine?
I think just to note, it was actually the biggest panel, I think, of the search committees that I have been a part on, and so I think it's good for people to be aware that we had representation from K right through to 12th grade. We had obviously central office, we had parents. I think there was in total about 13 of us across, so apologies to the candidates who had to face us, but I think we managed to provide a very warm and inviting environment. So I think just for anybody watching to be, aware of, I think the process itself in terms of the interview process, was very thoughtful. We had, I think, very authentic deliberation on the Friday as we discussed the candidates and the roles and what we see and feel and think that Westford needs from this candidate. So I have to say, thank you. I think kind of Kerry Cleary had, in her final duties, kind of had set the whole thing up, and I think the whole thing ran very smoothly as well. So it was a very good interview process over those 2 days.
Great, thank you. Now, happy to open it up to committee members' thoughts and comments. Go ahead, Chris.
Thanks. Comment and a question. First, the comment. I want to thank the superintendent and our leadership team for thinking outside the box a little bit when the assistant superintendent position opened up. looking that we had and would have a vacancy there, and then choosing to appoint somebody who is very well qualified, knows the district there, and so that we could have this search for the director of special education and social emotional learning. So I think it's nice that we had the time to do a full search, and I'm just grateful to the screening committee for the work to bring us Mr. Coughlin. And then my question is just how can we introduce Mr. Coughlin to the community? I know, the screening committee got to see his packet, his resume packet, and wondering, I'm sure the Westford community would like to learn more about him in the coming days, and so just curious what's the best way to kind of bring him and introduce him to the community.
So I do think, he is going to be starting right at the beginning of July. So he'll be hitting the ground running throughout the summer. I feel like in terms of parent meet and greets, I feel like we haven't talked about whether those would be things that would be happening over the summer, or whether that would be something that would be better slated for the fall. I would anticipate sending something out to the committee. Sending something out to the community. You are also aware that I'm in the process of another search right now. So we are going to be doing a full search for the next principal for Westford Academy, and that we are anticipating taking place, the interviews taking place on July 10th and 11th, with a potential meet and greet for families on the 13th for Westford Academy families and for staff, in the same way we've done with all of our principals so far. So I haven't thought in terms of, and I can talk with Gerard more about that, in terms of an official meet and greet for him to meet people, or even in communication to families. I'm trying to not send a whole bunch of things out to families. So I was hoping that maybe those two announcements could take place, in a similar way. And I might just send something out either on August 1st in the middle of the summer, or even just after we make a decision regarding the principal position, and sort of share that with the full community, both of those things together. But I could also send something out separately if the committee would like me to do that.
Does anybody have any follow-up thoughts and questions, discussion? Feel free
I think
to.
it might be helpful if I don't know, maybe Dr. Chu, you might be willing to share some of Gerard's background or something, just to give the committee members a kind of an idea, or anybody listening in, kind of where he's coming from, and to kind of get a sense of who he is. It might be helpful for families as well, particularly somewhere in transitions.
Sure, thank you. So I will say, and if depending on the vote that takes place here, there might be an opportunity to hear from Gerard this evening as well too. But I would say one of the things that struck the committee and struck us as well was that Gerard leads quickly and immediately as a teacher himself. He identifies as being a passionate special education educator. That's been his entire career. He started his career working in a residential program, and one of the things he shared with all of us that I think was very impressive was just that the expectations and the challenges that can confront an educator working in a residential environment helps to really understand, I think, just the wide variety of needs, and even just a perspective of how we can best be meeting students' needs in general. His references were amazing in terms of everybody we talked about the fact that while he has not yet been a director of special education, he is ready for this leap, that his career has grown as he told us that education is in his blood, in that it's, he comes from a family of educators, and that his passion has been always trying to do whatever he can to help students succeed. And so he has significant experience in, I think, a really successful co-teaching model. One of the things that I know the committee was really impressed with was when we talked about what does inclusion look like. He talked about the fact that students wouldn't necessarily know who's the special education teacher and who's the content teacher. And some of our other members, I mean, some of the other candidates that we talked to, they also talked about the idea that if you walk into an inclusion classroom, you don't necessarily know who is receiving services and who isn't receiving services. And while that was a pretty consistent theme throughout the interviews, Gerard was the one who really spoke about the students' perspective and the fact that the students would just recognize all of the adults that they're working with as equal partners in their support system, which I thought was something that was really compelling. He's incredibly energetic and enthusiastic, and spoke quite a bit about the power of positive relationships, about building relationships with families, about building relationships with students and with staff, so that when we're coming together, even for meetings and things like that, that everybody feels like they have a comfort level as to what's being talked about. So those are just some of the highlights that I think that kind of came across. And like I said, he has actually also worked in elementary schools, he's worked with middle school students, he's worked with high school students, and he's worked with adult students as well too, who have still been receiving services as well too. So I feel like his career really spans quite a large range of student experiences.
Great. That sounds, thank you. That sounds very complimentary. Phil, I noticed you unmuted. Did you have something to add?
Dr. Chu, I wanted to ask, now that we're moving the director of special education into this kind of special education and social emotional learning role, are there certain goals or initiatives of yours that you hope to bring Gerard up through, and also your central office staff and the Westford district staff, and leading Gerard into this? I mean, this is categorically a different position now, I think we could say. I think, my experience in education, it's a different time now in education anyways, after the COVID pandemic. Have you thought about how you're going to support Gerard and your central office staff with this combined special ed and social emotional learning role more, and what that might look like in the first months of next school year?
Well, one of the things I think that's going to be most helpful is the fact that the committee's heard quite a bit from Brian Rourke in terms of the panorama data that we've been collecting. And I feel like by specifically identifying and highlighting the social emotional aspect of the director of special education and social emotional learning, that's providing an anchor for an individual within central office to help champion how do we then take this data and turn it into action. So as we're looking at the new curriculum, the EL curriculum that was approved at the previous meeting, which is coming out of the curriculum office, this is then tying in the idea that even through this additional office, we're going to be looking to see, okay, well, we've learned about how the EL curriculum has a great deal of social emotional learning skills and aspects embedded into the curriculum. So now we're going to have additional sets of eyes to be examining that, to say, okay, if that is truly supporting our K-5 students, then how can we benefit from that model and find ways to I think embed additional supports 6 through 12, things like that. So it's in some ways it's about making sure that there is a targeted lens that exists within even our central office conversations as well too. But as far as a specific plan, no, that hasn't been developed yet. because a big piece is onboarding Gerard and getting a sense from him as to the different types of things that he's observing as he's getting to know the district, and the things that he's assessing as he's helping us to look at all the programs that we have, to then figure out, okay, what might our next steps be?
Thank you,
I-
Dr. Chu.
I'll just add that too, that one thing Dr. Chu and I talked about was that there would be obviously an entry plan as part of Mr. Coughlin's onboarding. And I think we can definitely look for, just as we have this past year with the Director of Equity, Curriculum and Instruction, we can always be looking for ways for that individual to be in front of the committee and be sharing some of the work that they're doing for sort of those checkpoints and just for the public interest. So I think there's a lot of promise there. Catherine?
I think just to note on what Dr. Chu, you might consider even just because I know we had just had that really big presentation from the CPAC board and the survey results, which I think is really solid data as well to kind of maybe as part of the onboarding process. So you know, maybe you and Gerard would consider reaching out to the CPAC board. I know we have Melissa Mackey and Lisa Stutter and Danielle Thompson, that maybe they could even just meet with Gerard over the summer. Sorry if I'm throwing them all their vacation plans into array, but I think it might be also a nice chance for him to also connect with families and kind of really get an understanding for the district data, seeing as he's kind of missed. I think what is, you know, is a very valid tool as part of this.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, and that is something that he's talked about quite a bit too, is about who he can set up meetings with and who he can get to know. So part of me is also trying not to steal his thunder. You know, in knowing that there are things that he has already shared with us, and that's another example. one of the things is just really, building his own relationship with the CPAC in general.
Any further comments and discussion from committee members? I'll just add that I fielded a question from a parent today that reminded me, as usual, about things that we see as committee members with our lens on, and that we're sort of familiar with, and maybe members of the public aren't as intimate with. And one of those is sort of our purview when it comes to these hiring. And so I guess for members at home to for the public at home to be aware of, that the Education Reform Act of 1993 really laid out, I think, a clear guidance for the school committee. Is the role for tonight and for these positions is to appoint and follow the recommendation of the superintendent. It goes on to say the committee shall not unreasonably withhold its approval. And so I think that that's helpful context for someone at home who may not understand why the difference is between sort of the very public search that the superintendent position goes through, and then the different processes that we have for the director level positions. And as you mentioned, we're also very well informed on principal searches as of late. So, you know, I just think that can be helpful for to set the stage. Okay. Did you want to add something, Chris? I can tell when someone unmutes, it goes.
I know. I was going to make a motion.
I think Catherine
I
was
would
ready
move.
with one.
Oh, can I take it, Catherine, since I'm already unmuted?
Go for it.
All right.
Teamwork.
I would move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation to appoint Gerard Coughlin to the role of Director of Special Education and Social Emotional Learning.
Thank you. And a second.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Chris, second by Sean. Any further discussion, comments? I'm seeing head nods. Okay, so I'll call for the vote. Roll call vote since we're virtual. That's Catherine,
Aye.
Mari. Oh, you muted.
Sorry.
It's
Aye.
okay. Sean,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Ming Chen,
Aye.
and I am an aye. Is unanimous. Welcome to Mr. Coughlin, and I think he's joined us tonight.
Yes, he has. He did join the link because I do know that I think he would like to say hello to everybody. Thank you very much for that. I would be honored if we could bring Mr. Gerard Coughlin in so that he could say hi, and I'll see if I can get my dog to stop barking.
Hello, folks. I didn't want to turn on my video because I'm an emotional mess over here. So thank you all so much. Thank you deeply from the bottom of my heart. Dr. Chu, thank you for those kind words. And thank you for the thoughtful questions. Mr. McDonald, your question was incredible. Mr. Sanders, the same. I just really appreciate it. I know you folks are on summer vacation. I just want to keep this short and just give you a few thank yous here. Just thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm truly honored and humbled. I'm sorry, I'm a mess over here. I'm honored and humbled to just have this opportunity. So, just thank you so much. Most importantly, I just wanted to say thank you for just having some vision and bravery. It's my understanding that you folks here tonight played an integral role in the changing of the title of this position to Director of Special Services and Social Emotional Learning. And I just wanted to say that social emotional learning I've been in education for nearly 3 decades, and social emotional learning is deeply embedded in my pedagogy, and more important, it's just deeply embedded in my personal beliefs. And I truly believe that students learn best when they feel safe socially and emotionally, and when they're in a place where they can be supported social emotionally. Personally, I have 2 elementary age students. And they thrive when they are supported socially and emotionally. And so I know the value of that. And I know just how important it is to families, the community, teachers, and most importantly, to the students themselves. So just thank you for allowing me to be a part of a community that values social emotional learning as much as I do. Secondly, I just wanted to say I'm just beyond excited to be part of a community that is putting a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think we live in a time where so many districts think the work here is done with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we're seeing cuts to DEI education, cuts to DEI staffing. And, it's just beyond exciting for me to be part of a community that's not only pushing aside that narrative and sort of redoubling their efforts to make the community a place where DE&I is an important part of the school curriculum, of the school culture, of the town culture. So again, I want to come in and spend my time listening. That's what I want to do, and spend my time supporting all aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion the best I can. And like I said, that means listening and doing the best I can. And lastly, we said it, Mr. McDonald, I heard your question. It was incredible. Someone else asked a question about how to potentially meet me, or in what ways I could potentially meet others. I just can't, I can't say enough. I can't wait to be here. I can't wait to be in Westford. I'm so excited. I'm really excited to be here. Potentially as early as tomorrow. My schedule's clear, ready to go. My summer's clear, ready to go. My elementary age kids will probably be mad about that, but that's okay. I can't wait to get down to see your extended school year program as early as next week. That I think will give me an opportunity to meet students, meet families, to just give you something tangible maybe potentially a pick up and drop off. That's a time where I could just make myself visible, give people an opportunity to meet me, see who I am, and most importantly, just meet their children and meet the students. That is our most important focus. And then, of course, I can't wait to meet the talented faculty and staff here. It's part of the reason I put my resume here in the first place. It's not something I do. I don't regularly do that. And you know, when you see a district like yours come up, that's something that I wanted to do. And I'm so excited. I'm really just over the moon. And just lastly, really, thank you for your time. I know school committees are on sort of like their summer break, and you know, you're supposed to be rotating out of these. Hopefully 1 or 2 of you are picking me up from maybe potentially a vacation home or a vacation day, or just, you know, some time away in some form. So just thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. And I look forward to meeting everyone in person.
Nice to meet you. Your energy is infectious. I think I speak for all of us when we're excited to see what our work and partnership brings. So thank you very much for being available to put a face to the name for the families that are watching or that will watch tomorrow on YouTube. And we look forward to seeing more of you. Thank you. Anything else before we look for a motion to adjourn?
If I can say, Valerie, I did try to embed a little bit of information about the WA principal search.
Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
Before we adjourn, if any of you have any questions about that, and we do need to find a school committee member to participate in that. So like I said, the information we sent to families and to staff was that on the 10th and the 11th, Monday's the 10th, 11th is Tuesday. The information is we do want to have like a pre-meeting at I think it's at 11 o'clock, and then have a working lunch, and then have a couple of interviews on the 10th, and then more interviews on the 11th. And then I'm going to send something to families about the potential meet and greet on Thursday, the 13th, so that they just can have that sort of as a save the date type thing. I didn't want to include it with requests for the participation on the committee, because I didn't want people to, because someone can actually participate on the search advisory committee if they're not available on the 13th. So we wanted to kind of keep that separate. But if any of the committee members have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer those right now. And I mean, how have we've handled this in the past that like someone has reached out to the chair, correct?
Yep, it's happening in behind the scenes, but we will get a rep to you shortly.
Perfect.
Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Catherine and a second.
Second.
Chris, thank you. All those in favor, roll call vote. Thank you, everybody, for making time tonight. I'll start with Catherine.
Aye.
Mari.
Aye.
Sean.
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
Ming Chen.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Aye.
Gerard, thank you so much. Great to meet you.
Thank you so
Gerard.
much. Thank you, folks. Really nice to meet you
We'll
all.
see you
Thank you
soon.
so much.
Bye.